One, when something is important enough, you do it even if the odds are not in your favor. In life, each of us faces difficult choices, decisions that have the power to change our entire trajectory. The path ahead is not always smooth, clear, or easy. Often what we truly want, what we believe in and yearn for the most, lies just beyond reach, surrounded by obstacles, risks, and uncertainty. However, as Elon Musk once said, when something is important enough, you do it even if the odds are not in your favor. This statement is not just a guiding principle in his own life and career, but also a source of powerful inspiration for millions around the world, people who dare to pursue their dreams and convictions even when success seems unlikely. The message is simple yet profound. If something is truly important to you, be it a dream, a mission, a belief, or a purpose, you must act on it regardless of the difficulties, regardless of the low probability of success. It is a courageous way of thinking that goes beyond conventional logic or the comfort zones that most people live in. Many are paralyzed by fear of failure or bound by limits, whether self-imposed or shaped by society. Elon Musk himself is a living embodiment of this idea. When he founded SpaceX, many ridiculed the idea and called it naive. How could a private startup compete with established national space programs like NASA? And yet, he moved forward. At that time, the chance of failure was nearly certain. The first 3 rocket launches by SpaceX failed. If the fourth one failed too, the company would go bankrupt. But Musk didn't give up because he believed that making space travel accessible and enabling humanity to become multiplanetary were essential to our future. Eventually, the 4th launch succeeded, marking a turning point for commercial space exploration. Tesla was another monumental risk. When Musk invested in electric vehicles, the automotive industry was dominated by traditional gas-powered cars. The idea of a high-performance, sleek, and competitive electric vehicle seemed absurd to many experts. But again, Musk pursued what he believed in, transforming transportation into something sustainable and forward-looking. Today, Tesla is a symbol of innovation and has sparked a global shift toward electric mobility. Musk's philosophy isn't just applicable to tech or business. It reflects a deeper truth about courage and the meaning of life. Most people only dare to do what feels safe, choosing stable jobs, avoiding conflict, shelving passion in favor of comfort. But what would happen if everyone only followed the easy path? There would be no innovation, no social progress, no one brave enough to do the right thing when it's hardest. This quote from Musk urges us to ask a vital question: what truly matters to me? It could be the desire to create art, start a business, help a community, or simply live authentically. And once we identify that, we must begin regardless of what others say, regardless of how slim the odds of success may be. However, doing something, even if the odds are not in your favor, doesn't mean acting recklessly. Musk doesn't walk blindly into his ventures. He prepares with deep knowledge, strategic thinking, and careful planning. The difference is that he accepts risk and is willing to fail in pursuit of something meaningful. What he advocates is not reckless ambition, but calculated courage, fighting for what matters, even at great personal or professional cost. History is filled with others who changed the world by living out this mindset. Nelson Mandela spent 27 years in prison because he believed in freedom and justice. Marie Curie persisted in researching radioactivity despite dangerous conditions and scarce resources. Steve Jobs returned to Apple after being ousted from the very company he founded because he believed in the untapped potential of innovation. None of them knew with certainty that they would succeed, but they took action because what they pursued mattered deeply, something important enough And the world changed because of people like them. At the heart of it, Musk's quote is a call to courage. Courage to believe in something greater. Courage to face failure. Courage to start even when the chances seem slim. Life doesn't guarantee success, but it does give us the power to live meaningfully when we dare to act on what truly matters. 2. Persistence is very important. You should not give up unless you are forced to give up. In a world that often glorifies instant success, overnight fame, and rapid achievement, the virtue of persistence is increasingly undervalued. Many people expect progress to be fast and results to be immediate. When success doesn't come quickly, discouragement sets in and dreams begin to fade. Against this backdrop, Elon Musk's statement, "Persistence is very important. You should not give up unless you are forced to give up," stands out as a powerful reminder of one of the most essential ingredients of long-term success: relentless determination. Persistence is not just about trying again and again blindly. It is about having the endurance to keep going in the face of adversity and the wisdom to learn from failure. Musk himself is no stranger to setbacks. In fact, his life and career are defined by moments when giving up would have been the logical, safe, and expected choice. And yet, he continued. Consider SpaceX. When Musk started the private aerospace company, few believed in his vision. The idea of a private company sending rockets into orbit, let alone to Mars, seemed not only improbable but laughable. The first 3 rocket launches ended in failure, devastating crashes that cost tens of millions of dollars. Each of those failures could have marked the end of the venture. Investors pulled back. The media ridiculed the mission. Musk himself admitted that he was close to financial collapse, and yet he persisted. He took every failure, not as a defeat, but as a lesson. He and his team worked tirelessly, and on the 4th attempt, SpaceX successfully launched a rocket into orbit. That one success changed everything, proving that persistence pays off. Tesla faced similar hurdles. When Musk invested in the company, it was on the verge of collapse. They struggled with production issues, financial instability, and constant skepticism from both the press and the automotive industry. Multiple times, the company teetered on the brink of bankruptcy. Musk went so far as to personally fund payroll and operations to keep Tesla alive. He even admitted that during the most difficult times, he would sleep on the factory floor, working long hours alongside his engineers. Why? Because he believed in the mission, and because he understood that persistence, unwavering, grinding persistence, is often the only difference between failure and breakthrough. What makes Musk's message so impactful is that it acknowledges the reality. There will be times when the pressure is immense. There will be moments when it seems like the odds are unbeatable, but he urges us not to walk away unless we truly have no other choice. You should not give up unless you are forced to give up. These are not just words. They reflect a mindset. A mindset that sees failure not as an end, but as a step forward. This kind of persistence is relevant to everyone, not just entrepreneurs or inventors. Whether you're a student struggling through a difficult subject, an artist facing rejection, a parent navigating hardship, or someone trying to overcome personal setbacks, the ability to persist is vital. Success, in any form, career, relationships, personal goals, is almost always a test of endurance. Talent and intelligence matter, but they are often eclipsed by perseverance. Psychologist Angela Duckworth has famously studied this trait, which she calls grit. According to her research, grit, the combination of passion and perseverance for long-term goals, is a better predictor of success than IQ, social intelligence, or physical health. Elon Musk embodies this principle. His success cannot be explained by money alone. He invested nearly all of it into his companies, nor by luck he faced massive resistance at every turn. It is his refusal to quit that truly defines his journey. That said, persistence is not about ignoring reality or stubbornly chasing a failing plan. It's about being adaptively persistent, learning, evolving, making changes, but never abandoning the core mission until you absolutely must. Musk has pivoted many times, adjusted strategies, restructured companies, but he never gave up on the vision. That flexibility within persistence is what makes the difference between delusion and determination. There's also a deeply human element to persistence. To persist is to hope. It's a quiet, powerful statement that says, "This is worth it." Every time we choose to keep going, we declare our belief that our goal still matters, that the story is not yet over. It's a rebellion against despair, a rejection of the easy way out. History is filled with stories of persistence. Thomas Edison famously failed thousands of times before inventing a functional light bulb. J.K. Rowling was rejected by a dozen publishers before one finally agreed to publish Harry Potter. Nelson Mandela persisted through 27 years in prison for a just cause. These stories resonate with us not because the people were perfect, but because they were persistent. Today, in the age of social media highlights and fast-paced lives, it's easy to forget that most achievements are built on countless hours of unseen struggle. What looks like sudden success is often the result of years, even decades of quiet persistence. That's why Musk's words carry such weight. They pull us back to reality and remind us of the long game. In the end, we may not all become billionaires or launch rockets, but we can all choose persistence. We can all refuse to give up on the things that matter deeply to us, our dreams, our values, our growth. Musk's philosophy doesn't guarantee success. Nothing does, but it offers us a path. Keep going, adapt, learn, fail, and try again. And only stop when you are absolutely, unquestionably forced to. Because often the moment right before you were going to quit was the one right before it was going to work. 3. Failure is an option here. If things are not failing, you are not innovating enough. In most environments, failure is treated as something to be avoided at all costs. Schools punish it. Workplaces fear it. Society often shames it. But Elon Musk, one of the world's most daring innovators, offers a radically different perspective. Failure is an option here. If things are not failing, you are not innovating enough. This statement flips conventional thinking on its head and invites us to re-examine the role of failure not as an enemy of progress, but as its essential partner. To truly innovate means to venture into uncharted territory. It means doing things that haven't been done before, taking risks that have uncertain outcomes, and being willing to break things in order to build something better. In that context, failure isn't just a possibility, it's a necessity. Because if you're not failing, you're likely playing it too safe. You're staying within the boundaries of what's known, what's tested, what's already been proven. And in doing so, you're not actually innovating, you're just iterating. Elon Musk has embraced this philosophy throughout his career, particularly with SpaceX. The company's early rocket launches were infamous for blowing up literally. In the traditional aerospace world, failure was unacceptable. Billions of dollars and human lives were at stake. But Musk understood that to develop reusable rockets, a concept previously considered impossible, failure had to be part of the process. And fail they did. The Falcon 1 failed 3 times before a successful 4th launch saved the company from bankruptcy. The Falcon 9 and Starship prototypes have blown up on landing pads in mid-air and even after seemingly successful flights. But each explosion brought learning. Each failure carried data, insight, and progress. Without those failures, SpaceX would never have succeeded in landing rockets vertically, a feat once thought to belong only in science fiction. The same principle applies to Tesla. In trying to revolutionize the auto industry, Tesla encountered repeated technical issues, missed deadlines, and financial close calls. The Model X's Falcon Wing doors caused engineering nightmares. The Model 3's production ramp became known as production hell. Many analysts called Tesla a failure in progress. But Musk accepted these setbacks as part of the innovative process. Tesla could have played it safe, designed conventional cars, or avoided taking manufacturing in-house. Instead, they pushed boundaries, stumbled often, but ultimately redefined the electric vehicle market. This mindset of failing forward is what sets true innovators apart. They don't avoid failure, they mine it for value. In fact, in highly innovative cultures like Silicon Valley, there's even a term for this: fail fast. The idea is to try, break things, learn quickly, and adjust. It's a cycle of experimentation that values speed and learning over perfection. But for many people, failure is personal. It feels like rejection, embarrassment, or defeat. We're trained to fear failure from a young age. A failing grade in school is seen as shameful. A failed business is often viewed as a character flaw. That's why Musk's quote is so powerful. It gives us permission to fail. More than that, it reframes failure as proof of trying hard enough. If you're failing, it means you're pushing boundaries, you're in motion, you're doing something that matters. Of course not. All failure is productive. Repeating the same mistake without reflection or accountability is not innovation, it's recklessness. What Musk is talking about is intelligent failure, the kind that comes from bold experimentation, informed risk, and the pursuit of meaningful goals. The key is to fail with purpose and to build systems that learn from failure. In that light, failure becomes a form of research. Every unsuccessful rocket test at SpaceX provides telemetry data. Every bug or breakdown at Tesla is analyzed and fixed in future models. Musk once said, "You should take the approach that you're wrong. Your goal is to be less wrong." That humility, the belief that you don't have all the answers, is what allows learning to happen. Without the humility to accept failure, there is no growth. The message also has profound implications for leadership and team culture. Leaders who demand perfection, who punish failure, harshly create environments of fear and stagnation. Employees play it safe, creativity dries up, innovation slows to a crawl, but leaders like Musk create space for experimentation. They allow teams to explore unconventional ideas. They understand that short-term failure often precedes long-term breakthrough. That culture of courage is what fuels the world's most disruptive companies. This principle isn't limited to space or technology. It applies to every area of life. If you're starting a business, learning a new skill, writing a book, launching a nonprofit, or changing careers, you will fail along the way. You'll get rejected, make mistakes, lose money, or feel lost. But that doesn't mean you're doing something wrong. In fact, it may be the clearest sign that you're doing something bold, something worth doing. Safe paths don't lead to transformation. Risky paths do. Think of the people who've changed history. Thomas Edison famously said, "I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work." The Wright brothers were told human flight was impossible. Rosa Parks, Martin Luther King Jr., and countless activists faced setbacks and defeats. But each failure was part of a movement toward change. Innovation isn't limited to technology. It lives wherever people dare to dream of something better and are willing to fail to get there. So what should we take away from Musk's quote? First, don't fear failure. Expect it. If you're doing something new or worthwhile, failure will visit you often. Second, learn from it. Every failure is a feedback loop, an opportunity to get smarter, better, and more resilient. Third, create a personal or organizational culture that allows for failure. Without that freedom, innovation dies. Elon Musk's success is not the result of avoiding failure, but of mastering it. His willingness to embrace uncertainty, fall flat, and try again is what made possible reusable rockets. Market-leading electric cars and new frontiers in technology. We may not all be building rockets, but we can all adopt this mindset. Because at the heart of innovation lies a simple truth. If nothing is failing, nothing is changing. 4. Some people don't like change, but you need to embrace change if the alternative is disaster. Change is an inevitable part of life, yet it remains one of the most resisted forces in human experience. We cling to routines, traditions, and familiar ways of thinking because they offer comfort, predictability, and control. But as Elon Musk wisely stated, some people don't like change, but you need to embrace change if the alternative is disaster. This quote is more than just a pragmatic statement. It's a wake-up call to individuals, organizations, and even societies. In an era of rapid technological advancement, environmental crisis, and social transformation, refusing to change can be far more dangerous than the uncertainty that comes with adaptation. At its core, Musk's quote speaks to the fundamental truth that change is not optional when survival is at stake. Whether it's a company on the brink of collapse, a species facing extinction, or a civilization at a turning point, change becomes not just a choice, but a necessity. Musk understands this deeply as the core missions behind his companies, Tesla, SpaceX, and others, are all built around responding to urgent global challenges that demand transformation. Take Tesla, for instance. For decades, the world has been powered primarily by fossil fuels. This dependence has driven climate change, polluted the environment, and contributed to geopolitical instability. For a long time, industries, governments, and consumers resisted transitioning to cleaner energy and electric vehicles. Why? Because change is hard. Infrastructure had to be reinvented, consumer habits shifted, and powerful interests challenged. Yet the alternative climate disaster is far worse. Elon Musk recognized this and embraced the challenge. By pushing the boundaries of battery technology, scaling electric vehicles production, and making sustainability cool, Tesla became not just a successful company, but a catalyst for global change. Now look at SpaceX. Musk often speaks about humanity becoming a multiplanetary species, not because it sounds like science fiction, but because he believes that relying solely on Earth is a long-term existential risk. If anything were to go catastrophically wrong, whether through natural disaster, asteroid impact, nuclear war, or ecological collapse, our entire species would be at risk. Colonizing Mars, in this view, is not a luxury. It is a necessary change to avoid potential disaster. While others scoffed at the idea, Musk embraced it, knowing that the cost of doing nothing is far greater than the cost of trying and failing. Musk's words also apply to business and leadership. In the corporate world, companies that fail to adapt to new technologies or shifting consumer demands are quickly left behind. Think of giants like Kodak or Blockbuster. Both once dominated their industries, but when change came, digital photography and video streaming, they resisted it. They had the resources to pivot, but not the mindset. Their refusal to change when it was clearly necessary led to their downfall. Contrast that with companies like Apple or Amazon, which constantly evolve and often reinvent themselves before they're forced to. Their success isn't just about innovation, It's about embracing change before it's too late. But Musk's quote isn't just about grand-scale change. It also applies to our personal lives. Many people stay in unfulfilling jobs, toxic relationships, or unhealthy routines simply because it feels safer than the unknown. Change is scary. It demands courage, vulnerability, and effort. Yet when staying the same leads to misery, stagnation, or regret, change becomes not just preferable, it becomes essential. Personal growth always requires transformation. We must let go of who we were to become who we're meant to be. Still, embracing change is rarely easy. Human psychology is hardwired to resist it. We are creatures of habit. The brain finds comfort in predictability because it requires less energy. Change triggers anxiety, uncertainty, and often pain. That's why Musk's quote is so compelling, because it doesn't romanticize change. It acknowledges that not everyone likes it, but it reminds us that the stakes are often too high to ignore. In this way, Musk offers a kind of rational urgency. He doesn't suggest we chase change for the sake of novelty. Rather, he emphasizes that when the current path leads to ruin, we must have the clarity and courage to shift course no matter how uncomfortable. Whether it's responding to global warming, evolving an outdated business model, or making a difficult life decision, the cost of inaction can be catastrophic. The COVID-19 pandemic is a real-world example of Musk's quote in action. The crisis forced rapid global change. How we work, how we communicate, how healthcare operates. Many people, institutions, and governments were reluctant to adapt at first, but the alternative widespread disaster made change the only viable option. And through that forced change came unexpected benefits: remote work, flexibility, digital transformation, and increased innovation in vaccine development and healthcare systems. It was a painful lesson, but one that underscored the necessity of embracing change under pressure. Musk's own life illustrates his comfort with transformation. He moved from software to energy, from cars to rockets, from payment systems to brain-computer interfaces. With each pivot, he risked reputation, wealth, and personal well-being. Yet in doing so, he remained ahead of the curve. His success is not solely the result of intelligence or vision. It's the product of his willingness to evolve, to let go of certainty, and to pursue a different path when the current one was unsustainable. In conclusion, some people don't like change, but you need to embrace change if the alternative is disaster. Is not just a statement about progress, it's a warning. Inaction in the face of inevitable change is a form of self-destruction. Whether you're an entrepreneur, a policymaker, a student, or someone simply trying to improve your life, the message is clear. Resist change and risk collapse, or embrace it and create possibility. Change may be uncomfortable, but when the alternative is disaster, it's the only rational choice. 5. At first glance, greatness may seem reserved for the few, those born with exceptional talent, intelligence, wealth, or connections. Society often idolizes the extraordinary as something inherent, unattainable, or purely the result of luck. But Elon Musk offers a profoundly different perspective when he says, "I think it is possible for ordinary people to choose to be extraordinary." With this one sentence, Musk challenges the myth of exclusivity around greatness and asserts a liberating truth: being extraordinary is not just about who you are, it's about what you decide to become. The power of this quote lies in one crucial word: choose. According to Musk, extraordinariness is not predestined. It's not solely a gift or a privilege. It's a decision. This reframes the conversation around success and ambition. It shifts the focus from what we are given to what we do with what we have. In a world that often seems unfair, this idea is radically empowering. Elon Musk is not speaking from theory. His life story itself embodies this belief, Born in South Africa to a middle-class family, Musk was a shy, often bullied child who spent most of his time reading books and learning to code. He wasn't born into Silicon Valley privilege or an elite tech circle. What set him apart wasn't some secret advantage. It was an insatiable curiosity, relentless work ethic, and an unshakable belief that he could solve big problems. After teaching himself programming, Musk built and sold his first software company in his 20s. From there, he co-founded PayPal, changed the automotive industry with Tesla, disrupted aerospace with SpaceX, and pursued futuristic projects like Neuralink and the Boring Company. These achievements weren't the result of smooth sailing or perfect conditions. They were born out of a relentless drive to act on his vision despite risks and setbacks. Musk didn't wait to be qualified to launch a rocket company. He decided to learn everything he could and choose the extraordinary path. The idea that ordinary people can become extraordinary is not unique to Musk, but his success makes the idea more credible. In truth, history is filled with examples of people who started with very little and went on to change the world, not because they were born different, but because they made different choices. Oprah Winfrey was born into poverty and faced repeated trauma and hardship in her early years. Through determination, resilience, and self-belief, she rose to become one of the most influential media personalities of all time. Nelson Mandela spent 27 years in prison, and yet emerged to lead South Africa through a peaceful transition from apartheid to democracy. His extraordinary leadership was rooted in moral courage, not privilege. J.K. Rowling was a single mother living on welfare when she began writing Harry Potter in a small cafe. Rejected by many publishers, she persisted and became one of the most successful authors in history. These are just a few examples, but they reinforce Musk's point: ordinary beginnings do not limit extraordinary outcomes. But what does it really mean to choose to be extraordinary? It's not about fame or fortune. It's about deciding to pursue your potential without compromise. It's waking up every day and doing work that matters, even when it's hard. It's showing resilience in failure, curiosity in uncertainty, and courage in the face of fear. Being extraordinary often means doing things others aren't willing to do, staying late, learning more, failing publicly, and risking criticism. It requires self-discipline, sacrifice, and focus. It means taking full responsibility for your life regardless of where you start. That's not easy, but it is a choice. And perhaps the most overlooked part of Musk's quote is the implicit suggestion that extraordinariness is not about being better than others. It's about being better than your former self. When ordinary people take extraordinary actions, they inspire others to do the same. They create ripples of change. You don't have to be Elon Musk to do that. A teacher who transforms the lives of students, a community leader who improves local conditions, a caregiver who shows daily compassion, all are extraordinary by choice, not by title. In the context of today's world, this message is more relevant than ever. We are living through massive global challenges: climate change, inequality, polarization, and rapid technological disruption. These problems won't be solved by a handful of superheroes. They require ordinary people, students, workers, parents, entrepreneurs, to step up, take ownership, and become part of the solution. Musk's quote is also a rebuttal to cynicism. In an age where many people feel powerless, overwhelmed, or disillusioned, the idea that your choices still matter is deeply hopeful. It reminds us that greatness isn't waiting to be discovered. It's waiting to be claimed through action. Yet this mindset does not deny that systemic barriers exist. Not everyone starts at the same line, and privilege plays a real role. But the quote doesn't ask us to ignore inequality. It asks us to push forward anyway. It tells us that our circumstances may shape us, but they don't have to define us. To be extraordinary, you don't need to start big. In fact, it often begins with something small, showing up consistently. Choosing growth over comfort. Choosing to keep going when it would be easier to quit. Choosing to believe that what you do matters, even when no one else sees it yet. So when Elon Musk says, "I think it is possible for ordinary people to choose to be extraordinary," he isn't just making a statement. He's issuing a challenge. He's inviting us to stop waiting for permission and to start taking responsibility for the lives we want to create. He's reminding us that the power to become more than what we are lies within every one of us, not as a guarantee, but as a choice. And in that choice, everything changes. 6. You get paid in direct proportion to the difficulty of problems you solve. In the modern world, where income disparities continue to widen and people seek both purpose and profit in their careers, Elon Musk's quote, "You get paid in direct proportion to the difficulty of problems you solve," offers a simple yet profound principle. It cuts through noise and entitlement and delivers a reality-based message. Your value in the marketplace is often determined not by how long you work, but by what kind of problems you solve and how hard they are to solve. At its core, this quote redefines the relationship between work and compensation. Many people mistakenly believe that effort alone should translate to higher income. While hard work is certainly necessary, Musk emphasizes that what truly moves the needle is the difficulty and impact of the problems you tackle. Solving high-stakes, complex, or rare problems often leads to higher rewards because fewer people are able or willing to do it. Let's consider a real-world example. A fast food employee works long hours in a demanding environment yet earns minimum wage. Meanwhile, a software engineer or surgeon might work similar or fewer hours, yet earn exponentially more. Why? Because the problems they solve, designing critical software systems, saving lives through surgery, require rare skills, deep knowledge, and years of training. They also involve significant risk, responsibility, and impact. The market compensates people not just for effort, but for the value they bring by addressing difficult or important challenges. Elon Musk himself is a prime example of this principle. His companies don't just sell products, they solve monumental problems. Tesla addresses the urgent issue of climate change by accelerating the shift to sustainable transportation and energy. SpaceX takes on one of humanity's most ambitious problems, making space travel affordable and potentially colonizing other planets. Neuralink tackles the complexity of merging human brains with AI, while The Boring Company explores new solutions to urban congestion. Each of these ventures is attempting to solve problems that are technically, economically, and socially difficult. And because of that, the companies Musk leads have become extremely valuable. Investors, governments, and the public reward them with capital contracts and attention because what they are trying to solve matters and is hard to do. This quote also encourages a growth mindset. It tells you that if you want to increase your income, don't just work harder, work smarter. Focus on developing the ability to solve harder problems. This might mean acquiring new skills, building deeper expertise, learning how to lead teams, or developing the courage to tackle things others avoid. The bigger and more complex the problem you can solve, the more valuable you become in any field. This applies whether you are a freelancer, employee, entrepreneur, or student. For example, a graphic designer who only knows how to make logos may find many clients, but their work is easily replaceable. However, a designer who can also understand brand strategy, user experience, and drive measurable results for companies will be in higher demand and command higher pay. Why? Because they solve harder, more valuable problems. The same is true in entrepreneurship. Starting a business that offers something common like reselling products can work, but it's often low margin and highly competitive. Starting a business that addresses a complex pain point in healthcare, finance, or education, however, may face more hurdles, but also offers higher rewards both financially and in terms of impact. The harder the problem, the fewer people are competing to solve it, and the more you're worth if you succeed. Of course, this doesn't mean you must always chase the most impossible challenge, but it does mean you should evaluate your work through the lens of problem difficulty and impact. Are you solving problems that matter? Are they difficult enough to make you indispensable? Are you learning to solve more complex problems over time? Musk's quote also highlights something important about value creation. Money doesn't flow from effort alone. It flows from value, and value in a capitalist system is often tied to scarcity and importance. If you can solve a problem that few others can solve, and it's a problem people need solved, you create leverage. That's why experts, founders, inventors, and leaders are often paid more, not because they're inherently more worthy, but because their problem-solving capacity affects more people, businesses, or systems. But this principle isn't just about income, it's about purpose too. Solving difficult problems often leads to a deeper sense of fulfillment. Think about it, which is more satisfying? Checking off a to-do list of easy tasks or solving a complex challenge that makes a real difference. The latter builds confidence, competence, and pride. It pushes you to grow and improve. It forces you to think critically and creatively, and it leaves a lasting impact. However, solving difficult problems isn't always glamorous. It involves failure, frustration, and risk. That's why many avoid it, and why those who embrace it stand out. Musk himself has said that entrepreneurship is like eating glass and staring into the abyss. He knows that solving hard problems is emotionally taxing and mentally exhausting, but he also knows it's worth it. It's important to note that Musk's quote doesn't mean you must chase only money. Many people choose to solve difficult problems in nonprofit work, science, education, and activism, not for financial reward, but because the problems matter deeply to them. Even in those cases, the principle still holds the more difficult the problem you're willing to tackle, the more impact you can make and the more value you create for others. So how can you apply this mindset to your own life? Start by asking, what problems do I solve right now? Are they easy or difficult? Common or rare? Can I learn new skills to solve bigger or more important problems? What problems scare me, but also excite me? What am I willing to master that others avoid? Whether you're early in your career or decades into it, the answer to higher value lies in tougher problems. That's the trade-off Musk reminds us of. Ease rarely leads to exceptional outcomes. Difficulty, discomfort, and complexity are the paths to growth and ultimately reward. You get paid in direct proportion to the difficulty of problems you solve. It's not just a business. Insight, it's a life strategy. Seek harder problems, solve them well, and you'll find that both value and meaning follow. 7. If you need inspiration, don't do it. Elon Musk is known for pushing boundaries not just in technology, but also in how we think about work, purpose, and motivation. Among his many impactful quotes, one stands out for its bluntness. If you need inspiration, don't do it. At first glance, it may sound discouraging or even harsh. After all, we're often taught to seek inspiration as a prerequisite to creativity, leadership, or ambition. But if you examine this quote closely, you'll find it contains a deeper truth about discipline and commitment and the nature of truly meaningful work. Musk's message is simple. Don't rely on fleeting motivation to guide your most important actions. If you're only able to move forward when you feel inspired, you won't make it far because the most worthwhile pursuits are grueling, frustrating, and full of setbacks. If the only thing keeping you going is emotion or a motivational high, you'll give up as soon as things get hard, and they will get hard. This quote speaks to the distinction between excitement and conviction. Inspiration is a spark, and emotion a temporary surge. It can light the fire, but it won't keep it burning. Conviction, on the other hand, is a decision. It's the internal agreement you make with yourself to keep going even when the passion fades. The obstacles mount and nobody is cheering you on. Musk is telling us, if you're looking for a constant stream of inspiration to fuel you, you're not serious enough. Take Musk's own ventures as proof. Building SpaceX wasn't glamorous. It involved years of failure, blown-up rockets, and near bankruptcy. There were no cheering crowds when Tesla missed its production goals. He famously said that entrepreneurship is like eating glass and staring into the abyss. And yet he kept going, not because he felt inspired every day, but because he believed that what he was doing needed to be done. His motivation was deeper than emotion. It was rooted in mission. This quote also acts as a warning against romanticizing ambition. Too often, we're shown the highlight reels, launches, breakthroughs, awards. We rarely see the anxiety, loneliness, sleep deprivation, or endless revisions that happen behind the scenes. Aspiring entrepreneurs, artists, or innovators sometimes believe that success is driven by passion alone. Musk argues the opposite passion is not enough. Grit, discipline, and a willingness to endure are far more important. If you need inspiration, don't do it is especially relevant in creative work. Artists, writers, designers, and innovators often struggle with waiting to feel inspired. But the truth is, inspiration doesn't come to those who wait. It comes to those who work. Sit down, do the hard thing, and eventually inspiration may follow. If you only act when it feels good, you'll never build the consistency required for mastery. As author Chuck Close said, inspiration is for amateurs. The rest of us just show up and get to work. This quote also confronts the entitlement mindset that has quietly taken root in modern culture. It challenges the idea that you must feel ready or feel inspired before acting. Musk flips the script. If you're waiting to be inspired, perhaps this path isn't for you. Perhaps the desire isn't strong enough, because those who must build, create, or change something don't need constant inspiration. They just do it. In a way, Musk is calling for purpose-driven action. He doesn't say, if you don't feel inspired, wait. He says, don't do it. Why? Because some pursuits are so demanding that only those who are deeply committed beyond fleeting emotion can survive the journey. Space travel, climate innovation, radical disruption. These are not passion projects. They are missions. And missions require people who are all in with or without emotional fuel. This mindset applies far beyond business and innovation. Consider people who fight for justice, care for sick family members, or work in high-stress professions like medicine, military, or emergency response. These people don't always feel inspired, but they keep going because their work is necessary. It matters. They do it out of duty, belief, or responsibility, not emotional highs. Musk's quote reminds us, the deeper the purpose, the less inspiration you need. However, this doesn't mean inspiration has no value. Musk isn't rejecting inspiration entirely. He's rejecting dependency on it. There's nothing wrong with being inspired. It can ignite ideas, give you clarity, or elevate your energy. But if it's the only thing keeping you going, you're in trouble because inspiration is unpredictable. It comes and goes. And when it disappears, as it inevitably will, you must still show up. So what's the alternative to inspiration? The answer is discipline and commitment. If you've chosen a difficult path, like starting a company, writing a book, or pursuing a bold vision, you'll face days when it all feels impossible. That's when inspiration fails and discipline begins. It's showing up even when you're tired. It's moving forward, even when there's no applause. It's understanding that results follow consistency, not inspiration. This quote also points to a deeper question: why are you doing what you're doing? If the answer is shallow, fame validation, quick success, you'll burn out when the work becomes painful. But if the answer is rooted in purpose, curiosity, or service, you'll persist even when it's hard, even when you don't feel like it. In that sense, Musk is asking us to examine our motives. If you need constant inspiration to start something, maybe it's not the right thing. Maybe you're chasing a fantasy, not a calling. Real change, whether personal, scientific, artistic, or global, requires something sturdier than emotion. It requires a decision, a why, a refusal to quit. In conclusion, if you need inspiration, don't do. It is not a dismissal of creativity or energy. It's a challenge to your seriousness. Are you driven by emotion or mission? Are you in love with the dream or committed to the process? Musk's words remind us that greatness doesn't depend on how often you feel inspired. It depends on how often you show up regardless of how you feel. 8. Starting and growing a business is as much about the innovation drive and determination of the people behind it as the product they sell. When people think of successful businesses, they often focus on the product: a revolutionary phone, a groundbreaking app, a sleek car, or a powerful piece of software. While the product is undeniably important, Elon Musk reminds us with this quote that it's only half the story. In truth, a product is just a reflection of the people who built it, their ideas, energy, resilience, and relentless commitment to turning vision into reality. Starting and growing a business is as much about the innovation drive and determination of the people behind it as the product they sell. This quote points to a powerful truth. What makes a company succeed is not just what it offers, but who is behind it. Because behind every world-changing invention is a team of people who are willing to take risks, work tirelessly, adapt to failure, and keep moving when the odds were against them. The people matter as much as the product. A great product does not appear out of thin air. It is the result of vision, experimentation, and persistence. Musk knows this firsthand. His companies, Tesla, SpaceX, Neuralink, and others, have all faced tremendous challenges, from exploding rockets to missed deadlines, production chaos to public criticism. None of his products would exist today without the innovation drive and determination of the people behind them. Innovation is the ability to see what others don't and to build what others think is impossible. It's not limited to engineers or designers. It includes entrepreneurs, marketers, strategists, and operators who are constantly problem-solving and pushing the limits of what can be done. Innovation starts with a mindset, a belief that something better is possible, and a willingness to pursue it without guarantees. But innovation alone isn't enough. Drive, the inner push to act, is equally vital. Building a business is exhausting. It often means working long hours, taking on personal and financial risks, and managing stress and uncertainty daily. Without drive, even the most talented team will falter. Drive is what keeps founders and teams moving forward when energy runs out and the road ahead looks impossible. And then there's determination. Perhaps the most underrated ingredient of all determination is the refusal to quit. It's what carries a company through its darkest days when funding dries up, customers disappear, or a critical product fails. It's what allows entrepreneurs to bounce back from rejection, adapt after failure, and fight for a future that doesn't yet exist. Every startup, no matter how brilliant the idea, hits walls. Determination is the force that breaks through them. Musk's own journey reflects this principle. Elon Musk's ventures are not just built on great products, they're built on his unshakable belief in solving huge, difficult problems. When Musk founded SpaceX, most thought it was a joke. Aerospace had long been dominated by massive government agencies, and the idea of a private company launching rockets was unthinkable. But Musk didn't just believe it could be done. He and his team worked tirelessly to make it happen. The first 3 rocket launches failed. A 4th failure would have ended the company, but through sheer determination, technical ingenuity, and trust in his team, the 4th launch succeeded and SpaceX changed the aerospace industry forever. Similarly, Tesla's early years were marked by production failures, financial crises, and media doubt. The idea that an electric car could compete with gas-powered giants seemed foolish to many. But Musk believed in the mission, and just as importantly, he built a team that did too. They didn't just want to sell cars, they wanted to accelerate the world's transition to sustainable energy. That sense of mission gave them the endurance to persist through what Musk famously called production hell. The common thread in all of this is people. A business is not a product. A business is a team of humans united around a goal solving problems together. When investors bet on startups, they often say, "We bet on the team, not just the idea." That's because they know that even a good idea will fail without the right people behind it. But a strong team can pivot, adapt, and eventually find the right idea or product market fit. The power of culture and leadership. Musk's quote also highlights the importance of company culture. Innovation, drive, and determination are not just personal traits, they are cultural forces. A startup's early culture is shaped by its founders, their habits, values, and expectations. If a founder models hard work, curiosity, and resilience, that sets the tone for the team. If a company celebrates learning from failure rather than punishing it, that creates space for experimentation and growth. Leadership, too, plays a critical role. Musk himself is an intense and demanding leader, sometimes controversial, but no one questions his work ethic or belief in his missions. That kind of leadership attracts people who want to build something meaningful, not just clock in and collect a paycheck. And when teams are deeply aligned around a vision, they can weather almost any storm. Why this matters for aspiring entrepreneurs. For anyone starting a business. Musk's quote is both a lesson and a challenge. It tells you that your product matters, but not more than you and your team. It tells you that if you want to build something lasting, you must bring more than just a good idea. You must bring endurance. You must be ready to keep showing up when it's no longer fun, when no one is watching, when everything seems to be falling apart. It also means that hiring the right people is critical. Skills are important, but so are mindset and character. Look for people who are resourceful, curious, optimistic in the face of uncertainty, and relentless when problems arise. A small, determined team will outperform a large, unmotivated one every time. Beyond business, a life. Philosophy. Though Musk is speaking about business, his insight applies to many areas of life. Whether you're building a nonprofit, writing a novel, pursuing a degree, or training for a marathon, the outcome depends as much on your internal qualities as on your external tools. Innovation, drive, and determination, turn raw materials into masterpieces. The product, whatever it is just the result. In conclusion, Elon Musk's quote, "Starting and growing a business is as much about the innovation drive and determination of the people behind it as the product they sell reminds us that success starts within. A brilliant product is nothing without a committed team. And behind every great company, there's not just a good idea. There's a group of relentless, innovative, determined people who refuse to give up. 9. People work better when they know what the goal is and why. Clarity is one of the most underrated forces in the world, especially in business leadership and team performance. Elon Musk, known for driving innovation through massive, complex organizations like Tesla and SpaceX, understands this truth better than most. His quote, "People work better when they know what the goal is and why," speaks to the essential need for purpose-driven work. It reminds us that when individuals understand not only what they're doing, but why it matters, their motivation, alignment, and performance all dramatically improve. In many teams and workplaces, people go through the motions, completing tasks, following instructions, and meeting deadlines, but too often they lack a clear sense of how their work fits into the bigger picture. They may know what they're doing on a surface level, sending emails, writing code, answering calls, but they don't know why it matters. They don't understand how their contributions connect to a greater goal or how their effort helps move a mission forward. When that connection is missing, engagement drops. But when it's present, when people see the purpose behind their work, everything changes. Musk's insight is simple but profound. Purpose fuels performance. Why purpose drives better work. When people understand the goal and the reason behind it, they're more likely to take initiative. Instead of waiting for instructions, they can make decisions aligned with the larger objective. Collaborate more effectively. Understanding shared goals leads to better teamwork as individuals see how their roles interconnect. Stay motivated during setbacks. Purpose provides emotional resilience. When you know why you're doing something, you're more likely to push through difficulties. Think creatively. When people know the end goal, they're better positioned to offer new solutions to help reach it, even if their method looks different from what was originally planned. Let's look at how this plays out in one of Musk's own companies. At SpaceX, the overarching mission isn't just to build rockets, it's to make life multiplanetary. That's the why. The goal is far larger than simply launching satellites. It's about ensuring humanity's long-term survival by enabling interplanetary travel. This massive vision gives the team a clear sense of direction. Every engineer, designer, and technician understands they're not just building parts. They're helping shape the future of civilization. That understanding breeds passion, pride, and persistence, even when faced with exploding rockets or long nights of trial and error. At Tesla, the purpose isn't just to sell cars, it's to accelerate the world's transition to sustainable energy. That clear mission gives every employee, from battery engineers to customer service reps, a guiding star. It's not about selling more vehicles than competitors. It's about fighting climate change, reimagining transportation, and transforming energy systems. That deeper why inspires teams to endure challenges and innovate relentlessly. Leadership and communication. A major implication of Musk's quote is this: leaders must communicate purpose clearly and often. It's not enough to assign tasks and demand results. Great leaders give context. They ensure that everyone on the team understands what the goal is. What are we trying to achieve? Why the goal matters. What is the larger mission or consequence? How each role contributes. How does your work push us toward the goal? When these three pieces are in place, people work with more focus and fulfillment. They are no longer just doing a job, they're participating in a mission. This is true across industries. In education, when teachers understand that their job isn't just to deliver content, but to shape minds and futures, they teach with passion. In healthcare, when staff know that their administrative roles help save lives by supporting frontline care, they show up with greater purpose. Even in customer service, knowing that resolving someone's issue contributes to brand trust and long-term impact gives meaning to the most repetitive tasks. The cost of vagueness. Without clear goals and purpose, organizations suffer from confusion, misalignment, and disengagement. People waste time on unimportant tasks, duplicate efforts, or work at cross purposes. Morale drops because employees feel like cogs in a machine, rather than contributors to a cause. In the worst cases, talented individuals leave not because they lack skill, but because they lack connection. One of the top reasons people leave jobs, according to numerous workplace studies, is lack of meaning. When people don't know why their work matters, it becomes exhausting rather than energizing. Musk's quote reminds us that meaning is not just a philosophical concept, it's a practical tool for productivity. Empowering individuals through clarity. Another benefit of goal-oriented, purpose-driven work is autonomy. When individuals know the goal and why it matters, they're better equipped to make their own decisions. They can innovate more freely, experiment more intelligently, and adapt more quickly. They no longer need constant supervision because they're not working just to please a boss. They're working toward a vision they understand and care about. This is how high-performing teams are built, not through micromanagement, but through shared purpose. Applications in personal life. Musk's quote also applies to personal goals. Many people struggle with consistency, procrastination, or burnout, not because they're lazy, but because they don't truly understand why they're doing what they're doing. Wanting to lose weight, learn a skill, or earn more money is common, but unless you're deeply connected to the purpose behind those goals, motivation fizzles out. If you want to succeed in anything, clarify your own goal and why it matters to you. That clarity turns discipline into desire. It gives your efforts direction. Final thoughts. Elon Musk's quote, "People work better when they know what the goal is and why is both a management principle and a life truth." It reminds us that humans are not machines. We don't thrive on routine alone. We thrive on meaning. When we understand the destination and why it's worth reaching, we travel further, faster, and with more joy, even when the path is hard. In a world where so many are searching for purpose, clarity may be the most valuable leadership tool of all 10. If something's important enough, you should try. Even if the probable outcome is failure, there are moments in life when we are faced with a choice. Do we act, even if success seems unlikely, or do we hold back waiting for the right time, the perfect plan, or guaranteed results? Elon Musk's quote, "If something's important enough, you should try. Even if the probable outcome is failure," offers a bold and unapologetic answer. Yes, you try, not because success is certain, but because the cause, mission, or belief is worth it. This mindset goes against the grain of conventional thinking. Most people are conditioned to weigh decisions based on likelihoods, safety, and reward. We're taught to play it smart, minimize risk, and avoid failure. But Musk, who has built companies like Tesla and SpaceX, by tackling problems others deem too risky or impossible, invites us to think differently. He's not asking us to abandon reason. He's asking us to act with courage, especially when the stakes are high. Importance over outcome. The central idea in Musk's quote is importance over outcome. In other words, if a goal or purpose has enough meaning, if it matters deeply enough, it deserves action regardless of the odds. This philosophy is not blind optimism. It's not saying ignore failure. It's saying that some things are too important not to try. Take Musk's own journey with SpaceX. When he founded the company in 2002, the odds were stacked against him. At the time, the space industry was controlled by governments and a few powerful contractors. No private company had ever successfully sent a rocket into orbit. 3 failed launches nearly bankrupted the company. Most people would have walked away. But Musk believed that making space travel affordable and accessible was crucial for the long-term survival of humanity. That belief made the risk worth it. The 4th launch succeeded and it changed the space industry forever. The same principle applies to Tesla. Starting a car company, especially an electric one, was considered nearly suicidal. Major automakers had tried and failed. Even Musk admitted that the chances of success were slim, but the mission to accelerate the world's transition to sustainable energy was too important to ignore. Today, Tesla has redefined transportation, forced the auto industry to pivot to electric, and proved that betting on a mission can change the world. Why we avoid risk. Fear of failure is deeply rooted in human nature. We fear being judged, losing money, wasting time, or feeling regret. Society often reinforces this fear by rewarding safe choices and punishing bold ones that don't work out. But if every great idea had to come with guaranteed success, progress would stop. No innovation, no civil rights movement, no personal transformation would ever occur, because all of those started with someone choosing to act in the face of long odds. Musk's quote urges us to rethink failure itself. Failure is not always a sign of weakness or mistake. It's often the price of progress. Trying something important and failing is not the same as failing because you did nothing. There's dignity in attempting something meaningful, even if the outcome is uncertain. A mindset for innovators and leaders. This philosophy is especially relevant for entrepreneurs, leaders, creators, and changemakers. If you're waiting for a guaranteed win before you launch that product, start that movement, or share your vision, you may never start at all. Musk's message is don't let fear of failure paralyze you when the mission matters. True leadership often requires acting without assurance. Rosa Parks didn't know her refusal to give up her seat would spark a movement. Scientists who work on groundbreaking cures or technologies often labor for years without guarantees. Artists create from passion, not certainty of fame. These are people who do not let the probability of failure prevent them from trying because the possibility of impact is worth more than the comfort of safety. What's important enough? Of course. Musk's quote also raises an essential question. What is important enough to risk failure? For that answer is deeply personal. For some, it's climate change. For others, it's creating a better life for their family, launching a business, writing a book, or fighting for justice. Importance doesn't have to mean global impact. If it's meaningful to you, if it aligns with your values, and if it calls to something deeper within, then it's worth trying for. But here's the catch. When something truly is important to you, not acting becomes a different kind of failure, the kind you carry quietly for years. Musk's quote is a permission slip to avoid that quiet regret. It's an invitation to live boldly, especially when the mission matters more than the metrics. Trying in the face of failure. What does it look like to try when failure is likely? It means launching your business even when others say the market is saturated. It means applying for that dream opportunity even if you feel underqualified. It means speaking up for a cause even when your voice shakes. It means learning a new skill, taking a leap, or creating something no one has asked for yet. Trying doesn't mean being reckless. It means making a calculated decision that this is worth the risk. It means accepting that the path may be difficult and doing it anyway. The quiet power of courage. At its heart, Musk's quote is not just about business or innovation, it's about courage, the kind that moves people to act, not because success is guaranteed, but because not acting would be worse. Courage is not the absence of fear, it's moving forward despite it. And here's the beautiful paradox. The people who try even in the face of probable failure are often the ones who succeed. Not because the odds were good, but because their conviction was stronger than their doubt. Final thoughts. If something's important enough, you should try. Even if the probable outcome is failure, it's a quote that calls for bravery, responsibility, and integrity. It asks you to stop waiting for certainty and start acting on meaning. In a world that often rewards short-term gain and punishes risk, this mindset is rare. But it's also how real change happens. Not every attempt will succeed, but every courageous effort leaves a mark on your life, on your character, and sometimes on the world. So ask yourself, what's important enough for you to try, even if you might fail?